Hello. Hi, everyone. First of all, tell me if you can see and hear me before we continue into the topics of the evening. And I'm glad you're here. If you're a U.S. citizen, it's great that you're here because it is the night before Thanksgiving, and I thought you might be all out shopping, preparing. And if you're like me, you're just going to go next door to my daughter's house and let her do all the work. There's an advantage sometimes to getting older and living alone. No, good, Beth. You can hear and see me. Fantastic. Okay, so I've had an interesting day. I want to share something with you. It was really funny. So I went to. Can you see this? Does that look backwards or is it correct on that? I went to the immersion exhibit for Vincent van. I'm going to say this correctly. Van Gogh. Not Vincent van Gogh, Vincent van Gogh, but I'll say Vincent van Gogh from now on because it's too hard to say the proper version of it. And it is amazing, and I'm not being paid for this, but if you go to your apps and put in Fever, they will tell you all these great immersion, cool events that happen in town. And this was where you go in, you see all his art, and they do everything in immersion. And then they do a virtual reality thing, and I'd never done virtual reality before, so I put the headset on, and I was like in his room, the one he painted with his little bed, and then you go out the door and down the stairs, and you go out into the town, and that was the most coolest thing ever. So I ran home, did my research, and I bought. Is this maybe upside down? Yeah, it is. I bought my first virtual reality headset from Amazon, and I'll put that down there because this is just the coolest thing ever. And of course, I'm kind of an idiot. I'm trying to learn how to use it because I've never used it. So I bought an ocean one. So I'm like in the ocean, and first I'm chasing this turtle around down there, and I feel like you're in the ocean. It's incredible. It's 360 degrees, and you're down there, and the fish are going by, and I'm using my controllers, and I'm following the turtle. And then I changed up the screen to whales, and I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I saw the whales, but I kept hitting this button, and all these dead fish kept dropping in. And about 100 dead fish later, I'm thinking, was the whale supposed to eat the fish? Because I got a lot of dead fish here floating around. I don't know what they're doing. And then I couldn't get out of the bottom of the ocean. So you're lucky I'm here because I'm at the bottom of the ocean, and I'm like, which one of these things gets me out of the ocean? And I could not figure out how to do it. So I was down at the bottom of the ocean, like stuck down there. But eventually I just had to take the headset off and kill it. But I'm going to learn how to do it. I guess I'll have to do a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of research on how to properly do everything because it was really confusing. But totally the coolest thing ever. So I'm not a gamer, but yeah, I do love immersion type things. So I'm going to do the things that I won't do in real life. Like I like snorkeling, but I can't scuba because I can't do take the mask on and off thing. So I can't scuba. I will never jump out of an airplane except with virtual reality. And I'm never going to climb Mount Everest except with virtual reality. So I'm going to do that just for the fun of it. And it was absolutely cool. So I'll put that in there. So that was just really neat. So that was my fun visit to a cool place. So now to things that are less pleasant. But where's my glasses? I can't see anything. What did I do with the glasses? Oh, for God's sakes. Okay, hold on, guys. I literally lost my glasses. Did I throw them on the floor? What in the world? They're gone. They're gone, my glasses. Okay, I got to find another pair of glasses because my glasses have vanished. Hold on 1 second. Okay, sorry, glass pair number 2. Okay, so now to the things of today. So many cool things. One was a really funny Karen, who is not here yet. Karen, she might not make it, but she wrote me on Monday. She goes, I'm really curious about how Beth puts up all kinds of cute whales. And And a dolphin. Oh, he's so cute. Yeah, I love the life in the sea. I love snorkeling. I really do. So this was just cool to be in my bedroom going, woo, I'm under the sea. Um, so Karen said on Monday, I says, I can't wait to find out what the question of the week is going to be. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to come up with oh, there you are. Great. I'm glad you're here. Because after you asked that question, and I'm like, I don't know, I better come up with one, huh? And I asked, and I sent out this question, um, what crime occurred in whatever country you're in, where you really thought this person was going to get arrested for it? I'm not talking about somebody went to court like Casey Anthony and got off, or O.J. Simpson and got off. I'm talking about somebody who you thought was going to be arrested and didn't get arrested. And the reason I asked that question was because of the Kyron Horman case. So many people believe that the stepmother, Terry Horman, is guilty and she should have been arrested. And if you saw my video on it, I really pointed out in that video that, and if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it, that the reason she didn't get arrested is there's really almost zero evidence. I mean, really zero evidence outside of, you might not like her. She was the last person to see him, but other than that, nobody saw her leave with him. They found no trace of anything in the truck that could say she killed him. They never found his body. You can't arrest somebody like that. You can't do it. That's just called no evidence. But many people were just believing that there should have been an arrest. And sometimes you really think there should have been an arrest, like there was enough evidence. And so I asked you all if you knew of any case where you thought, gosh, they had somebody that's really, really good. And I really thought about it. And I didn't get many responses except for Karen. And she came up with this great case. Thank God, because I'm with you, rest of you guys. I was having real trouble coming up with anything. And I'm like, what can is there something out there that I really know that person probably did it, but they never got arrested? And I just drew a blank. So I'm going to do Karen's case in a little bit because it's a really, really cool case. And it was in Washington, D.C. I want to hold off on just a second on that. But really fascinating. And you think, how in the heck did these guys not get arrested for this crime? And so it's going to be a really interesting case. I'm going to bring it up in just a second. But before that, I just want to do the quick news thing because there was news this week. We have Brian Laundrie was determined that he committed suicide. People have said by gunshot, and people have said, where's the gun? I don't know what the answer to that is right now. And some of them are thinking, well, if you didn't find him with a gun, how can you say that? Well, probably because it's been a while, and who knows where. I don't know where his body exactly was found and what could have happened, whether the gun could have sunk into a swamp someplace. I don't know. But they said he committed suicide. And here's the next thing, which I find very, very, I want to point out again, the issue of evidence and proof of things, not what you think is true. Because what you think is true, you might be right. You might be 99.9% chance of you being right, but it isn't necessarily a fact. So many people are saying, well, there you go. He killed himself. Therefore, that proves that he killed his girlfriend. Gabby Petito. He must have killed her because he wouldn't have killed himself if he hadn't killed her. And the answer to that is no, that is not true. That is not proof he killed her. It's likely he killed her. You're darn right that it's likely, but it's possible for whatever reason she ended up dead, maybe in the place where they were hanging out and camping. Maybe he went away, deserted her there, came back and found her dead from some serial killer and said, oh crap, they're going to blame me. Jumped in the vehicle and drove home and said, I don't know what to do, Mom and Dad. I came back and she was dead. And then everybody's after him, the pitchfork squad is after him, and he just decides he's going to run away, and then he decides, the heck with it. They're going to think I did it. I'm just going to kill myself. And besides, I don't have my girlfriend anymore. Possible. More likely he killed her, but But the point being that we can't, if you're doing something technically, you can have all the opinions that you want to on, the public opinion. That's, you can do whatever you think. Believe me, behind the scenes, when my doors are closed, I have discussions where I'm like, yeah, that person's guilty. But when I'm talking about evidence, at this point, it's very likely that Brian Laundrie killed his girlfriend, but there is not proof of that yet. I don't know what the police have got, but they haven't proven it yet. And now he's committed suicide. It could be because he killed her. It could be because he thought he'd never have a chance with everybody after him and everybody thinking he killed her. Chances of one is this and one is this, but still, the point being, it's not proof. And people are saying, oh, it's proof. It's not proof. Martin asked a great question. What do you think of Rudy Guidi? I don't know how to pronounce his name. I've seen 3 versions of it. Rudy, Guede, Guede, release. That's the guy that was convicted of murdering Meredith Kercher in Italy. He spent 16 years, I believe it was 16 years, and he has been released. He has been also relieved. He was released. He gets now out of prison. I believe he's like he's in his mid-30s. Still a young dude. Sexual homicides, I don't understand why any country in the world would release somebody who clearly has committed a sexual homicide. A person who commits a sexual homicide is a serial killer. Whether we know what other crimes they've committed, whether we've proven they've committed other crimes, doesn't matter. A person who will step over the line to sexually assault and murder another human being is a serial killer. And they will do it again if they have the opportunity and desire at that moment to do it. And besides which, Meredith Kercher was brutally raped, and she was sexually assaulted, brutally sexually assaulted, and brutally murdered. She is not walking free today herself. She's not walking back into life as a 35-year-old herself. She is dead. Her family will never see her again. But Rudy, I guess it's like, okay, well, you did enough time. I'll let you go because you're probably a nice guy now. No, you're not. You're still a psychopath. You're still a serial killer. Why are you out in public? I don't know. I think it's stupid. I thought it was 16. Oh, Martin says released after completing 13 years of a 16-year sentence. I fail to ever understand anything but a life sentence. If you're not going to go for the death penalty, and I understand people don't like it, at least do life, and life should be life. Life shouldn't be, life, but we'll let you out in 13 years. No, or whatever the system is. And it all depends what the kind of crime is. Like a young, let's say an 18-year-old kid who had a gun, and he and a bunch of guys ran into a store and they got all freaked out and ended up shooting the owner. Okay, do you do 20 years? I get it. You're not a serial killer. You may not even be a total psychopath, but you may have been a stupid kid who's followed a path of a whole bunch of bad people, got involved in things you shouldn't have been involved in, didn't know you were going to kill anybody that day, didn't premeditate that. I get it. But the serial killer, I'm done with you guys. So I want to go back to when I was talking about Brian Laundrie. Okay, no, let me move Brian Laundrie away. Let's go to, how do you pronounce the name of that Wisconsin place? Wausauga? I think it was Wausauga. Wausauga. By the way, Arbery, the murder of Arbery, the 3 men were convicted in that. I did a video on both Rittenhouse and Arbery. And I said, in my video, I said, I found Rittenhouse, regardless of what you think of him and why he was there, he was not guilty because I saw it as self-defense. I said, on the other hand, Arbery, since the 3 men chased him down, regardless of whether Arbery was a criminal fleeing from a scene or whether he was just a jogger, the 3 men had no business doing what they did. They chased him down. They killed him. I thought that was a homicide. That was not a homicide, murder. And they were indeed they did get, all three got nailed for murder today. I'm very pleased. Christine. Okay, Christine, because you are next door in Minnesota. Waukesha. Is that correct? Nadine, Christine, put a thumbs up, thumbs down on me, or just say that. Waukesha. Is that what you're saying? How do you say it? Waukesha? When you don't live someplace, you really have no clue how people say things. In my area, we have a place called Silver Spring. People who are from outside the area always say Silver Springs, and there's no S on it. Never has been. It's Silver Spring. I live in Bowie, Bowie. People from outside say Bowie. You like the boat, David Bowie. Because if you're not there, okay, Christine, thank you. Okay, yes, thank you. She says it's Waukesha. Okay, so I'm very pleased that these two trials, the juries came back with what I thought they should come back with. And if you don't know me, you know my feelings about civilian juries is that it's a crapshoot every time, because I find untrained people trying to figure out whether they should or should not convict is unfair, both to the jury themselves and to the defendant and to the public. But there you have it. But this time, I'm just pleased that they agreed with me. I'm pleased that I think they did indeed figure out what was right about what verdict they should come up with. So I was happy about that. But then we have this thing, and I want to talk about motive because let me look at this again. Waukesha, Wisconsin. We have a guy who ran over a whole bunch of children and older women, not elderly because I'm one of them. There was older women of my age, mature women doing walking and singing this parade, and they got run down along with some really young children who were, I think there were a whole bunch of girls and a boy. A boy died in that. He was 8. His brother was also hit, but he survived. And then the number of little girls were about, I don't know, between 7 and 12, whatever they are, and critical condition. And it's horrible. So the question comes down to, what was his motive, this particular person? And it's very interesting that I want to point out that motive is often in the eye of the beholder and not the actual criminal himself. It's rather fascinating. And a lot of times it's very politically driven, or it's just kind of the culturally driven, what people think it should be, what the media thinks it should be, what will make better news or whatever. And it's very interesting to see what people call hate crimes, what people don't call hate crimes. I got in a lot of trouble a long time ago. I don't know if you remember the guy in Fort Hood who shot down a bunch of people on the base. He was a Muslim, and he came in and he said, he shouted the proper words, Allah Akbar, and then he shot down a bunch of people, and it was labeled a terrorist attack. And I objected. I said, I don't think this was a terrorist attack. And the reason I didn't think it was a terrorist attack was because, first of all, there's mass murder and there's terrorism. And then there's lunatic psychopaths, which are mostly mass murderers. Okay, terrorism is an organized group of people who commit a particular terrorist attack for political reasons. For example, in India, where my son was in the town of Jaipur, there was a terrorist attack there where 9 bicycle bombs went off. About 90 people were killed. Thank God, not my son. And it was orchestrated by a group called Lashkar-e-Toiba, and I may be pronouncing that incorrectly too. Lashkar-e-Toiba coming out of Pakistan, and it's an argument over Kashmir. It's an actual political issue. It's a political issue, and a whole group of people, and the same thing with the Mumbai attacks, they came over as a political issue, and they were sent by a group. Now, this dude in Fort Hood, he had issues. He was having problems in his life. He didn't think he was being respected on his job. He was in a bad mood, and he hated the people he hated his bosses and the people he worked with, and he was a midlife crisis dude. And so what happens is, with these kind of guys, the last minute they go, just going in and shooting a bunch of people for no reason isn't as good as, hey, I'm going to make this a religious issue. And I'm like, the dude wasn't connected to terrorism. He did go online and do a few little, searches. He wasn't He wasn't sent there to commit a terrorist attack. And there was no political message. The dude was a mass murderer. He was a midlife crisis mass murderer. That's all he was. The guy in, do you remember this? I'm going to see if I get this guy's name right. The guy in Atlanta who shot up the massage parlors, okay? His name was Robert Aaron Long. He's 21 years old. He shot 8 people. All but 1 were women, 6 were Asian, and 2 were white. This one was kind of funny because they came up, the media jumped all over this as a hate crime because so many of the women were Asian. No, this wasn't a hate crime. This dude was an incel guy. This guy couldn't get laid. Basically, the guy couldn't get laid. And he joined these groups online saying, man, women suck. We can't get laid. And he sort of kind of hated women for not letting them have any, you know what I mean? So he went to these massage parlors. Now, the media played this down. These weren't places that give health massages. This isn't where you go and you get a proper massage. There are those places. Massage Envy, for example, is a chain across the country. I've been there. You pay money, you go into the room, everything is kosher. The person gives you a massage, a proper one. They're very careful about keeping you covered. You pay them the money, you give them a tip for their massage, and that's it. How do you know these massage parlors that he shot the ladies up weren't those kind of massage parlors? Well, the 24-hour massage parlor. When a massage parlor is 24 hours, you're not getting a massage. You're getting what's called a fingertip massage, which means the women have no talent and they just go. And then you get a happy ending. And that's the whole point. It's prostitution. It's straight up prostitution. None of the women who work in these parlors can work there unless they provide sex for the customers. The people who run these parlors are criminals. They're madams and John. They're pimps. That's what they are, madams and pimps. They're not nice people. They're not good people. Oh, we heard all these wonderful things, even about the madams that ran it. It's like, oh, this woman was just trying to provide for her family. No, the woman, these were women that were trafficked in from China. A lot of them just couldn't even keep their passports. They were forced into prostitution, and prostitution was being provided in these places. So what he did was he went in and killed prostitutes and madams and women he hated. It was a hate crime against women. It wasn't a hate crime against Asians. And that was what was so funny about it. It's like, you ended up getting this for the right reasons here. So, but Annie Haley says, happy ending place. Ah, yes, it certainly is. Yeah, it is. So then we have Waukesha, right? Well, I'm going to go back. Waukesha. So now we have Waukesha. And this is a very interesting one. And see, what happens is in a very, very politically charged climate, where people get very upset about things, they're unable to kind of be rational. And one of the problems is we want to label everything. When a psychopath commits a crime, he might be a psychopath that commits a mass murder because he just wants to kill people and get his name in the newspaper. Or he might want to kill people and then add some cool label to it, like political stuff, and get his name in the paper. He's still a psychopath no matter whether he's committing mass murder or a mass murder or a terrorist crime. But I always say terrorism is linked to a group. So this dude down who killed the prostitutes is a mass murderer who had an issue with women. It wasn't a racial thing. But even if, a lot of times, even when people looks like it's a racial thing, sometimes the guy wasn't even that racist before it happened, but he's like, I get more attention if it would look racist when I did it. So a lot of times you can't even tell because a lot of psychopaths aren't even that racist. They don't care about anybody. They hate the whole human race. That's what they're racist about. The whole human race. Y'all suck. I'll kill any of you I can get my hands on. So this guy in let me read it again, Waukesha, Wisconsin. Now, immediately the police came out and said this was not a terrorist attack, not a domestic terrorist attack, and it wasn't a hate crime. Basically, it was just this guy who drove away from a domestic. It's like, okay. The guy is a sleaze bag and a half. He's got a criminal record a mile long, and I fault the criminal justice system for that because the dude should never have been out on the street. I mean, they kept letting this piece of crap out. He's just a psychopathic, I'll commit any kind of crime criminal. That's really what he is. There was some, a little before that, I think it was on was it November 2nd? He like tried to run over his girlfriend, and he was, so he's into running people over. But that particular day, this is what I find very interesting though, there was supposedly some domestic thing someplace else. He left that location. He was not being pursued by law enforcement in a vehicle. So it's not like he was being chased by law enforcement and he was going 80 miles an hour through town and he just, got blocked in on this road and he just had to run the parade people over. That's not what happened. He got to that location. He went through the barriers. He had braked. There was nobody chasing him. He braked. So he slowed down and then he looked around and he hit the gas and he made sure he killed as many people as he could. That's called a mass murderer. That dude was not out there just running from the police or anything or out of control. The dude committed a mass murder. And there's no question in my mind about that. I don't think it was domestic terrorism because he wasn't connected to a domestic terrorist group. Was he anti? Was it a hate crime? Well, he was black and the whole group of people were white. But even then, you can't really tell. Now, it's true his Facebook pages and all that stuff were kind of like really kind of anti-white. That's true. But again, it's hard to tell. However, since he sped up and ran the people over, you can say, well, he may have had a purpose in doing so. He's a psychopath who wants to make a point. At that moment, make himself feel good. And I do believe it was probably a hate crime, but mostly to make himself feel cool because the guy was what's the word for it? Shitbird. I can't come up with a better one. And he just ran people. The thrill he got out of running over little children and women was what he wanted to get a thrill at. And it may have in his own mind, if they were of the different race that he thought was oppressive, than he thought he was doing. In his own mind, you have to understand it's in his mind. See, I'm not such a bad guy because I'm doing it for a good purpose. That's the way psychopaths think. So it's to us outside of psychopathy, it's irrational, but to them, it's just making themselves feel good. So it isn't even necessarily true. It's just that's what makes them feel good. So it's a pretty miserable thing. And I just think he should be nailed for mass murder. That I have a real hard time with when we try to put hate crime and not, because we can't get inside of his head. Mass murder is good enough for me. It's clearly a mass murder. It's clearly premeditated. Oh, and here's the other thing. The claim also is that, you leave one scene and you're agitated. So therefore you couldn't control yourself. Premeditation. What does premeditation mean? You don't have to premeditate by planning something a week before. In other words, this dude didn't sit down in his house necessarily and say, I see there's going to be a parade, a bunch of kids and women doing all this kind of like, Wisconsin parade stuff. I'm going to plan to run them over. Well, that would certainly be premeditated, but that's not the only definition of premeditation. If he got to the parade route, braked, and then made a decision to run everybody over, that's premeditation. At that moment in time, he decided, I want to kill as many people as I can. That's all you need. That's premeditation. It's mass murder. And I'm really annoyed that the press will not say it's mass murder. They are downplaying mass murder. And I don't know why, because it just is. It's mass murder. I can understand why they don't know whether it's a, quote, hate crime or supposed it's not domestic terrorism. He wasn't connected to anybody. I can see where there's always that hate crime issue. Like I say, I don't think the guy in Atlanta who killed the women in the massage parlors committed a hate crime. I think it just, except for he hated women. He did hate women. You want to put that one on? I hated women. But, it's still just mass murder. That's what it is. And I think that's good enough because a psychopath never thinks the way we think, and he makes up a bunch of stuff. And sometimes they'll even put out a manifesto before they do it, not because they believe in the manifesto, but because it will get attention in the newspaper. So let's not waste a whole lot of time deciding whether a single person was a hate crime or mass murder. It's not really worth it. Now, terrorism is a different issue because you have an entire, you've got cells. You've got a huge terrorist organization putting in cells across countries and committing crimes they're very, very premeditated, planned by a very large organization. That's extremely dangerous. And the reason you need to know that they're terrorist attacks is so that you can go out and stop that organization from functioning. That's the reason you do it. One simple guy, he's not connected to anybody. You just need to get him off the streets and in prison, and hopefully people will rat him out before it happens. That would be really useful. But terrorist organizations are a whole different thing. So you have to focus on them in a different way, investigatively. The end result might be similar. Mass murder or terrorism might be similar, but what's behind it is completely different. Christine says, woman hater. Well, he just couldn't get any. There's a very big problem these days with the incel movement where, once upon a time when you weren't supposed to get any before you get married, it was a lot easier. But now when you're supposed to be able to hit anything that you can, and nobody's saying yes to you, I went into a bar and, there were women there and they were drunk and they still said no to me. Maybe because, you're whatever, they're just not real attracted to you, but because they think they should have that, they get very angry about that. So, it's an unfortunate thing. Christine said he had been released from jail less than 2 weeks prior in a domestic abuse case. Yeah, I mean, the guy had a record like really long. That's our criminal justice system for you. It's very, very lenient. It's too lenient. And what's happened is over time, recently, we've let more and more people out of prison. We're cutting down the how long they need to be in prison because we're thinking it's unfair that they're being, unfairly, the sentences are too long or whatever, and we're putting them right back on the streets. And we're giving them such low bail that, because there is a kind of a weird truth that how come, let's say, a regular fellow who's working, let's say he's working at Walmart and his bail is set at 100,000. He can't make that even with a bail bondsman. But, you got Mr. Rich Dude over here and he's like, oh yeah, here, how is that fair? It isn't. I agree with that. But on the other hand, we shouldn't put dangerous people back on the street. There should be just basically no bail for them, period. But that's just my opinion on putting those guys out there. So I just find the motive thing is really interesting because we try to assign motive in things we don't really know what the heck they were thinking. And so to me, the difference between mass murder and terrorism is much easier. Mass murder is you killed a whole bunch of people on purpose. We don't care why you did it. You just did it. That's it. Death penalty, life in prison. Here, it's a terrorist attack. We better find out who the heck is funding you, put you out there, who you're a soldier for. That's the difference in the two things. Let's get out of the people's heads because we don't know. We don't know. We just want to pretend we do, but we don't. All right. So that was my thing on that. I want to talk about just one thing about jury of your peers, because it was a big thing in the Arbery case because almost everybody was white on that jury. And there was like one black guy. And, you got a black victim and you got 3 white dudes. And everybody's like, oh, my God, the white people are just definitely going to get that guy off. Here's the usual problem. Who the hell are your... I want to know, guys, who do you think your peers are? Because I live in a predominantly African-American community and a very wealthy African-American community. My kids are not white. I have 2 biracial kids and 1 black child. I have all friends from all parts of the world. Who the heck are my peers? I do know some white people, but I know a lot of black people. I know Indians. So when I commit a crime and they put the jury together, do they look at me and go, oh, 66-year-old white lady, let's get a bunch of white people. Are those my peers? Why are those my peers more than the other people in my town? I find that really interesting how, Martin says, my peers are you guys. Go easy on me. I hate to tell you this, Martin, but I think the majority of people here right at the moment, just right now, are from the U.S. and you're from the UK. You're screwed, But hey, Martin, I'll be happy to come over there and speak on your behalf if you will pay for my flight. Because, Martin, I am coming over to the UK. I'm going to be coming over probably when the weather's decent. I'm going to maybe in the spring, maybe June-ish. I have friends over there right now who moved. They're going to be there for a couple of years, but hey, they got a room for me. And I know I lived in Ealing, if you're familiar, Martin, with Ealing. I lived there for 1 month when I was 23. I lived in Ealing for 1 month. And I've been back to the UK and England, London, mostly to do television stuff. But I've never really gotten a chance to, outside of the time I was 1 month in Ealing, but I was 23 and I can't remember it now. What was I doing there? I don't even know. I want to come back. I want to stay with my friend, and I just want to spend a lot more time and get to see things that I, get to hang out, do stuff. So, yeah, well, I'm not going to be on tour. I'm just going to be hanging out where I got a free place to stay. Yeah. and I want good weather, because most time I come to London, you know how that works. It's like, dang it, I picked the wrong time. It's raining. So, but yeah, I'm gonna definitely try to come there probably in about June and just spend a month, maybe, as long as they don't throw me out of the free place I'm staying at. But jury of your peers, it's a very weird concept, that we would racially divide people, like that people that are your race are your peers. I don't understand that. What about your education? Do we go by education? Do we go by female, male? I mean, in other words, do dudes understand me, or do women understand me? Maybe dudes understand me more than women understand me. What about, I'm kind of weird. Do I get to get 12 weirdos? What is a jury of your peers? I honestly don't understand it. I understand that it's supposed to be the concept that they're going to be people from the community that, will give you a fair deal. But I think it's kind of an outdated, possibly a very outdated, maybe it was never a very good concept. So I want to, let's see, here's a cool thing. I'm going to get to the really weird case that Karen brought up, but I'm holding you out for that. I want to point out, I want to ask you this question. What is one statement a detective or a profiler should be willing to say? One statement that a detective or a profiler should be willing to say. I have my Christine glass drink. What do you think that would be? One statement we should be, detectives and profilers, willing to say. I'm going to give you some really great examples. Anybody? Oh, hi, Barbara. Yay. Okay, Barbara's here. My peers are regular people. That is not my boss and not the sheriff. Oh my God. We don't get to choose our jury, right, Barbara? So it's like, damn, I don't want that people, man. No, get them off my jury. Now theoretically, the defense attorney, so the prosecution and the defense can choose people they don't know. They could say they don't want that person on the jury. I am never permitted on a jury. I'm always thanked and excused because I'm a profiler, and the defense attorney does not want me on there. So Lisa says, I will give you the benefit of the doubt, seeing we don't have evidence. Oh, okay. So I just want to say, Barbara, that's the whole point. You just don't want those people. When I went to high school, I wasn't popular. I didn't want any of those people on my jury because they're like, Okay, now to Lisa. Okay, what one thing that a detective or profiler should say? Lisa says, I will give you the benefit of doubt, seeing we don't have evidence. Very interesting. That's a very good saying. I think that's been proven quite a lot, Lisa. And I don't even know it's really giving the person the benefit of the doubt. It's just saying we have no right to accuse you specifically of committing the crime when we do not have evidence to do so. We can't move forward in that direction. We might be still willing to look for evidence, which is why I think the Terry Horman cases, I think they're going to continue to look for evidence. I personally think the detectives think Terry Horman was involved, but I don't think they have evidence to prove it. Now, I don't know whether they think she's involved just because they don't like her, or they have something we don't know about that just makes them go, or they're completely confused over the issue. And I'm going to get to that in a really cool thing that I just read, which I thought was fantastic. Okay, Annie said, do I have all the information I need to make a judgment? Oh, that's very good. Yeah, I like that. Do I have all the information I need? Yeah, and a lot of times we don't. We can't make certain judgments because we don't have that information. I try to differentiate between when I'm doing these shows. I'm like, some are fairly overwhelming. And I could go, my determination is most like, I put in fancy words, most likely the evidence tends to support because I'm not saying that person did it, but the evidence is fairly overwhelming in that direction. But I still don't have enough, or the police don't have enough to take it to court. But yes, I think, and I wish more people, Annie, would say to themselves, do I have enough information to make a judgment, or do I just hate that person because I just do not like them? And a lot of times that's what it is. That person just, we don't like them. And also we're getting information. I pointed this out I read the boy, what's the name of that book? So in the thing on Kyron Horman, I read a book, and it was written by a true crime author, but she only hung out with the bio mom. She didn't get police information. She didn't get information from anybody else. It was everything from bio mom's point of view. And a lot of people said, well, didn't you read that book? I'm like, well, I did. And I found it interesting, but I also found it highly slanted. And I didn't know whether what she was saying was true. Because what happens is this. Let's say I am a mommy, and I have a child, and I have a child with my husband, and then my husband and I get divorced, and stepmommy has my child 50% of the time. And, I'm like, she's not bad, and she's really actually not treating my kid bad, but I really, I don't want her taking over my job. I really like her that much. She's not my cup of tea, but, I guess she's not mean to my kid. And then my kid disappears under her care one day. Suddenly she becomes the absolute devil. She's Satan herself. And now I'm remembering back. You know what she actually did? And suddenly my rage is so severe that I may now misremember things or exaggerate things because I'm angry and I want the woman to go down. I want my kid to be found. I don't even give a crap anymore about being nice. But maybe it's not even true because I'm just angry. So when you're outside that and you read this book from the devastated mother, Desiree was devastated. Her child has gone missing. There's no reason for her not to be devastated. I get it. But as a profiler, I can't necessarily believe what she says. But an awful lot of people read this book and go, see, this is what happened. I'm like, we don't have proof of that. We can't say it's true. And so, yeah, a lot of people got really upset with me on that show. Well, they get upset every week with me. But they take this as fact when it is not fact, and they don't have all the information to make a proper judgment. And that's correct, Annie. I can't make a proper judgment whether Terry Horman is guilty because there really is no evidence to prove she is. So, but here is the statement. I want to tell you what the statement is that I think, and I have 3 fabulous examples. And let me find my examples. Okay, hold on a second, because they were just so cool. And I really, truly, honestly believe this. What a profiler and a detective should say to themselves is, man, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. Dang. And when no matter how good you are, no how many cases you analyze, you sometimes just miss something. Or you're just focused over here and you just don't see over there. You're culturally, you don't get something. Maybe it's an age thing. Maybe because I'm a certain age, I don't understand what a 30-year-old would see on something. And they might see something that I, as a 60-some-year-old, wouldn't see, and vice versa. I'm like, yeah, no, you missed that. So it's really important to be able to say, wow, I didn't see that. This is the importance of having a team, because not everybody on the team sees everything the same way, and they can all lend something to it. And this is why I point out that sometimes people who are not experts or professionals in the field come up with something. I'm like, that was really good. You saw something I didn't see. And so I'm going to point out one of them. I thought this was really good. Okay. So on my YouTube page, I have a subscriber, and her name is Humanimal. Humanimal. She loves animals. She loves animals, so she calls them Humanimals, I think. And she's lovely. And she wrote, this was about the Terry Horman case, Kyron Horman. Since the school had a lot of people there for the science fair or whatever it was, an opportunist could have just taken him away. Well, that's very true. And then she goes up about the strange thing is the little chap going up to his class. Did he decide to go to the toilet? Because some people were saying, when Terry Horman said he waved goodbye and she turned away and she did not see him enter the classroom. She saw him at the door. She didn't see him enter the classroom. Did he say, oh man, I got to pee, and then go down to the bathroom and never actually go into the classroom? Very good point that, and I made that point too. He just may have turned. Many people made that point. He just may never have actually entered the classroom. Did he decide to run it down again and see his project? Well, he may have. Some other child's parent could have taken him away. Yeah, it's possible. Maybe some predator took advantage of the event to wander around amongst the parents, pretending to be a parent, and took a risk. And many people have said that, and I thought that. But this is the one I thought was really good. And I'm like, did I not say that during my show? Wish I'd said that during my show, and I don't think I did. So I'm really, really impressed with her comment here. Maybe, because remember the thing about Peter Hyatt, and the statement was that she had said she saw her stepson go down the hall, and he thought down the hall was weird. I did not. And he turned at the door, and he thought she should have said classroom, and she said door, and I thought that also was meaningless to me because there's a door to a classroom. I say door all the time. But then she said this thing about vision. She had a vision of him. Like when she looked back, she would close her eyes, and her vision was that he walked down that hall. And his thought theory was that statement analysis that when she said the word vision, it means it didn't actually happen. She's envisioning it, not that she saw it. And that was the one point. I had issues with the other 2 points, but that was the one point I went, Peter might have a point on the vision issue, but how? And this I thought was brilliant. So Humanimal, I don't know how to say her cute little name. She said, maybe stepmom lied about seeing him up to the classroom because she thought, maybe quite rightly, she thought she could be blamed for being remiss. She may have said goodbye whilst Kyron was still milling around where the other adults were. Bingo. That is excellent. I didn't think of that. Why didn't I think of that? Maybe I did, but I forgot to say it. I'm going to say that to protect myself. But yes, okay. Let's say she's down there with Kyron, and she's got her daughter with her, and she's like, I do not want to go up those damn steps. She goes, Kyron, go to your class, and she sees Kyron go up the stairs, and she's like, I'm done with that. She walks out the door. Or maybe she doesn't even see Kyron go up. She just tells him, Kyron, go to your class. He's 7 years old. It's not like he's 3. I mean, 7-year-olds run around schools all the time. So she might just said, okay, we're finished with the science fair. See you later, Kyron. Go to your class. Walked out the door. Never saw Kyron go upstairs. And then people are saying to her, didn't you see him go to the classroom? And she's like, shit. I just kind of told him to go upstairs. And they're going to think I didn't get him to the classroom. They're going to think something else happened. So she says she has a vision because she might have done it previously. Because a lot of times when you're taking the kid to school every day, you have a vision. I pick up my granddaughter a lot at school, and the rule these days is you have to get in this freaking long line, usually a 30-minute line of cars, and then they make you show a thing that says who you are and who you're coming to get. You have to have permission form, and then you drive up in front of the school, and then they let the child out because they're very, very careful, and you sit in that line forever. So you do this every day. So I have visions of my granddaughter standing out there, getting in the car. So if I were not there one day, I might have that vision of, I've seen that before. So maybe Terry did take that child, Kyron, up to his classroom a number of times before, but not that day. And so she's sitting there thinking, I don't want to admit that I didn't do that, but I have this vision. I have the vision of him going down the route class. And that's why for Peter Hyatt, it didn't ring true because something was quite a little bit wrong with that statement. Maybe it's true. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe she was there telling him to go up to the roof. Maybe she didn't take him upstairs, but she also didn't take him out of the building, and she didn't want to be blamed. So I thought this was a very excellent statement. So as a profiler, I would want to say, that's a good point, because you saw something in a way I didn't see. Because we just don't, we're not 100% like, wow, I saw everything, I knew everything. We don't. We have this different, sometimes we just miss something, or we just see it in a different way. And that's what's wonderful about a team. Even somebody who is not a Humanimal has been I know she's been subscribed for a long time. A really nice person. She's really into animals. She has a YouTube channel on animals. She's not a criminal profiler or a detective, but I was like, that's a great point. So that was one I just thought was really cool. So I just pointed out, I said, yeah, you're right. You make an excellent point. Terry Horman, maybe Terry Horman did not lie and did exactly as she said and saw the child's classroom, or maybe she just saw that another day. And so that's very interesting. Now, here's another one. Here's another person. So I want to point out another person. K Cap is another subscriber. Talking about the Jean Bonnet weird ransom note, right? She said, when it comes to the part in the ransom about her being denied her remains for a burial, I feel it is misdirection, possibly by the parents. But here's the statement she made, which I thought was so good. She goes, a kidnapper would think the threat of not getting their daughter back would be plenty. If one is a kidnapper, they wouldn't think, gee whiz, maybe a kid getting your daughter back is enough. We ought to add something to that, like you won't get a proper burial. I'm like, that's brilliant. Because what kidnapper? Because a parent just wants to get their kid back. They don't want a proper burial. I mean, is that really? What the hell? They want their kid back alive. So what kidnapper is going to say? Not only are you not going to get your kid back, but you're not going to get to bury her either. That's a weird thing to say, unless your kid is already dead and your brain is already that your kid is dead. I thought that was a brilliant statement. Very insightful, and that's what I wrote back. I thought that was amazing. That was really good. And then there was one more, I think. Or was there one more? Or was it just two? Hold on a second. Let me see if there's a third one. Oh, yes, there was a third one. This was, IDK. I don't know who IDK is. That's a new person for me. I was also a subscriber. I hope. IDK, are you a subscriber? I hope so. Anyway, one statement analysis idea about the 911 call. First thing she says, this is Patsy Ramsey, we have a note. She says we as the first word. And I feel like I would have said somebody left a note, or they left a note, or the kidnappers left a note. The fact that she said we is talking about the note in the same sentence indicates an association between them and the note, if that makes sense. Yes, it does. Isn't that interesting? I know if I came down the stairs and saw a note, I called the police. I would say somebody left a note on my stairs. Like my child is missing, and they left a note on my stairs. I wouldn't say we found a note, or even I found a note. I wrote back, excellent thought, IDK. I think IDK is I don't know, but you do. That is a great point. When Patsy calls and says we have a note, she's actually taking ownership of it. Also, the fact she says we have, that leaves out the found thing isn't there. They're not finding something. It's like you have something. Also, we and not I, because this would indicate more than one are responsible for having that note being left at all. I thought that was really, really great. So those were three times when some of my subscribers left comments where I went, that's really good. And I think that's really important. I think detectives and profilers need to understand that somebody else might pick up on something they missed, maybe cultural, just that, I called once, I don't know if I pointed this out before, but I once called to some detectives in California on a crime because they had this concept on a particular crime with an Indian family as to why they were, what happened to that family. And I said, did you check the issue of whether somebody came in to steal gold from the safe? And they said, what gold in the safe? I'm like, Indian families usually have gold in their safes at home. They have it. They have it also they keep it at the bank and safety deposit box. But they also often have a lot of gold in their safes at home, especially if there's a party coming up. Because you go to the bank, go to the safety deposit box, you pick out all the jewelry you're going to wear for that party, you bring it home and you put it in your home safe. So anybody within the Indian community or any community associated with understands Indians would know they might have a lot of gold in their safe. So I said, did you check on the issue of whether the person was actually robbing them for the gold in the safe? And they went, see, there were a bunch of guys who were in India and they were like, oh, we didn't even think about gold in the safe. I'm like, well, I get that. It's just I hang out with a lot of Indians, so I know the gold in the safe issue. So that's why you want opinions from different people, especially when it comes to cultural things, because they may know something you're just not familiar with. Like let's say there's something to do with an animal, but you've never owned an animal. How would you understand how dog owners act or cat owners act? You wouldn't know because you don't own any animals, so you wouldn't know, So it's very, very important to say, I never thought of that, or I don't know what to even think of that. Let me see what information I can get. I just think that's be open, be humble enough to know that you ain't all that. You ain't all that. You don't always have it 100% right. And somebody can give you information or come up with an idea that you just didn't think of. And that's the great thing about teamwork. So when I saw these three today, I'm like, man, those are really good. Those were just super. All right, now, and we're going to go to our question of the day. Karen, are you still here, Karen? Okay, Karen came up with this case. It was amazing. Let me find it and I remember this case in Washington, D.C., and it was so incredibly bizarre. Let me pull it up. Okay, hold on a second. I'm just trying to find it. It is, okay. The name of the case is, okay, here it is. You still there. Okay. I thought this was a great example. And I was living here at the time. And let's see, it happened when did it happen? 2008. Oh, that's when they tried to charge the guys. When did it happen? 2006. So I was already a profiler. I was working as a profiler at the time. I don't remember if I ever commented on this case, but I remember this case because it was, like you said, Karen, it's so freaky. And you think, how the hell didn't they arrest somebody? Let me tell you guys what this case was. It's very large. I'm going to try to squash it a little bit. Okay. This guy was named Robert Eric, and I don't know how to pronounce his name. Wone, I'm not sure. He was 32 years old, an American lawyer who was murdered in Washington, D.C. in August 2006 in the home of a college friend, Joe Price. And he, by the way, he is of, let me think. I know he's Chinese of some sort. I'm trying to figure out. He married Catherine Ellen Yu, and they lived in Fairfax County, Virginia, which, if you don't understand this, Fairfax County is, if you left Washington, D.C. and drove to Fairfax County at night without the traffic, it might be a 35, 40-minute drive. If you have traffic, it gets crappy. But so he lived out in Fairfax County. He used to work for Covington & Burling. He was a lawyer. He was hired as a general counsel for Radio Free Asia. He was very active within the Asian American community, supporting organizations such as the OCA, which I have no idea what that is, and the Museum of Chinese in America. And he was also, at the time of his death, the president-elect of the Asian Pacific American Bar Association. So he's very, very involved in the East Asian community. And what I mean by that is South Asian usually means Indian, and East Asian usually means Japanese, Chinese, and that whole group. So he's very involved in that. So anyway, so this is what happened. So he was living out in Virginia in a place called Oakton, and that's in Fairfax County, Virginia. And he'd been working as a general counsel for Radio Free Asia in downtown Washington. He had stayed the night at the home of friends located about 1 mile from his office. And this is a very interesting thing about why he stayed at his friend's house. Because I don't know. They didn't really go into why he suddenly decided to stay there. But anyway, it was about 1 mile from the office. Now, sometimes you just don't feel like driving home. But he had a wife at home, and it wasn't that far, and it was late enough that they didn't have rush hour traffic. And also, the dude had money, so he could have just booked into a hotel. But for some reason, he decided to stay at this friend's home. According to police affidavits, I'm going to say Wone, W-O-N-E, because I can't pronounce his name. It may be Wone, but just go with me with Wone. He was believed to have been restrained, incapacitated, and sexually assaulted before his death. The residents of the home, Price, that's supposedly his friend, Joe Price, Victor Zaborsky, and Dylan Ward, contended that the murder was committed by an intruder. Sorry. So there are 4 guys in the house. I think they were in an apartment. I think it was an apartment. Somehow, some complete stranger comes in, bypasses all 3 other guys, and completely sexually assaults and murders the guy that's staying there for the night. I have never heard such a stupid excuse in my life. Anyway, they contended the murder was committed by an intruder unknown to them, not even an intruder they knew. All right. The trial judge found this unbelievable. You think? Within days of the murder, the Metropolitan Police Department alleged that the crime scene had been tampered with. We wonder who they was tampered with by. The 3 dudes that lived in the house. But no charges were filed over 2 years. In late 2008, the police charged Price, Zaborsky, and Ward with obstruction of justice and conspiracy related to alleged tampering with the crime scene. Okay, so a stranger comes into your home, kills your friend, but you help cover it up. Okay. The men were acquitted of the charges in 2010. No one has been charged with Wone's killing. Wone's widow, Catherine Wone, filed a wrongful death suit against these 3 dudes, and the suit was settled. So now what happened to this dude? So late August 2006, he was fatally stabbed while staying overnight at Swan Street, Northwest Row House in Logan Circle neighborhood. Logan Circle neighborhood, Swan Street, fairly decent homes there. They're nice. It's like, in other words, these people weren't poor. They had enough money to be able to live there. Let's put it that way. Owned by Joseph Price and his domestic partner, Victor Zaborsky. So they were a couple, okay? These dudes were a couple. Where they lived with Dylan Ward, who was so in other words, they were a polyamorous relationship. The 2 dudes were there, but they had a little side guy that they were having fun with. So it was a threesome. Wone had gone to Price's residence at approximately 10:30 p.m. after working late, as had been arranged days before. Okay. As had been arranged days before. I'm going to say he was a 4th. I know his wife don't want to hear that, but I'm going to say he was a 4th. He had no real good reason to be staying there overnight. There was never any commentary like they were all going to go to the museum in the morning, whatever. I just find that kind of unusual that in this circumstance, late at night, he couldn't drive home to his wife, but instead had to stay with a bunch of dudes who already had a polyamorous relationship. I'm going to say, see, can't prove it. Just saying. Interesting. Anyway, why was he there? It was one of the issues. But it doesn't even matter why he was there. See, this is the whole point. If he went there to have a good time, it doesn't matter. If he went there because he was, his buddy said, hey, you can stay here overnight and therefore you don't have to drive home. And maybe next morning, I'd like to have breakfast with you. Doesn't matter if he's in a sexual relationship with these 4 guys. Doesn't matter if they're into S&M. Doesn't matter. None of this matters, because if you even choose, I'm not saying, as far as his wife goes, that's their business. But if you choose to have a consensual relationship with some people, and even if it's an S&M type of thing, whatever it is, You shouldn't come out of it dead. If you come out of it dead, there are 3 killers there. That's a fact. So he went over there. Neighbors reported hearing a scream, later identified as Zaborski's. So that's not even Wone, it's Zaborski. During the 11 p.m. newscast, maybe they hated the news. I screamed during the news. Zaborski made a 911 call at 11:49 p.m. So he screamed at 11. 50 minutes goes by, pretty much, and then he makes a phone call. And paramedics arrived 5 minutes later, followed by the officers of the MPD. Price phoned Wone's wife, and Wone was pronounced dead at George Washington University Hospital at 12:24. Now, all 3 men denied any involvement in Wone's death and speculated. Not even saw, they speculated an intruder had killed him. The 3 also denied any sexual relationship with Wone, and Wone's family have described him as both straight and happily married. Okay, so either he was having fun with you guys or he wasn't. But either way, dude ended up dead. Why is that? So either it was a bad group sex thing that went wrong, or he didn't even want to have group sex, and that's even worse. So all 3 men attended Wone's funeral, where Price served as a pallbearer. That is nice. And then they called him Wone a gentle and kind soul who was killed in the most horrible of ways. Paramedics responding to the emergency call found 3 residents' calm behavior unusual. None were screaming or even helping direct the paramedics. They interrogated the housemates on the night of the murder, informed them they were all main suspects, and asked many sexually charged accusatory questions. 3 days after the murder, then, so now it became an issue of an issue of gay rights and things like that, which kind of was just like not even the point. I don't even know what that has to do with anything. So let's say there were 3 straight guys and a woman came over to stay the night. I don't think it makes any damn difference. So anyway, they ripped that place up. And then 3 months after Wone's death, Price's brother, Michael, and an accomplice burgled the Swan Street residence and took more than $7,000 of electronic equipment. They were charged with burglary, but those charges were dropped. And they said that the MPD was saying they were preparing the murder case, but this whole burglary thing derailed it. I don't know why. Then there was a lack of progress. Then they finally, 2008, they'd filed an obstruction of justice charge, but they were all released pending trial. And then it was all dumped. And officials believe the knife from the kitchen had been smeared. Get this one. The officials believe that a knife from the kitchen had been smeared with blood and placed near the body, while a duplicate of the knife was missing from the same set. Would have been more consistent with the wounds. The autopsy revealed some degree of suffocation, perhaps by a pillow, and puncture marks to his neck, chest, foot, and hand. Though no toxins were found in his blood, a lack of evidence of struggle led investigators to suspect he'd been injected with a paralytic agent. Cadaver dogs found a blood residue in a dryer and lint trap and a patio drain, and they believed the evidence somebody had washed themselves in the back patio area and dried the wet clothes. Holy crap. And they thought there were some exotic drugs involved. So anyway, basically, Wone's death has proved to be one of the most mysterious homicide cases in Washington, D.C. history. They said that it captured the interest of everyone, especially the gay community, because this was so bizarre. And then there were some scholarships that went his name. Okay, then. Wow. Okay, so it would seem that these 3 men were involved in the death of Wone. Their claim that a stranger somehow accessed the home without their knowledge, borrowing the materials from their home, and then killed Wone while they were all there in such a dramatically sexual fashion, and with a lot of, it wasn't a simple thing. It wasn't like somebody came in and shot him. Crime never solved, 3 guys let off. And what the heck? I mean, that is one of the weirdest cases I've ever run into. And I'm going to say I pretty much think that the three gals were involved. That has just never been proven. And there we are. We're stuck with that because, it does definitely look like they are guilty as hell. But, where's the proof? And there you go. So once you don't have the proof, you don't have the proof. People would like to have the proof, and they would say, well, how come it just fell apart? And because of that, the whole issue of how the hell did it fall apart, I found this really cool article. I want to find it because I just thought this was really fascinating. Let me see if I can find it. Of course, hopefully I did not lose it because I'm going to be really mad if I lost it. Okay, not him anymore. Hold on a second. Let me find. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Where'd it go? Hold on a second. Just give me a chance here. If I lost this, I'm going to be really mad at myself. Because what they said was that in Baltimore, which is just north of Washington, D.C. Hold on one second. I'm going to try one more time to find this because I just think this really summed up so much of the issues. Oh, here we go. Okay, I found it. Thank God. Okay, it's called, this article came out of the Baltimore Sun, which actually was a really great article. I don't know how many of you saw, remember the great show? Okay, somebody give me the name of the show. The best show ever done on television in Baltimore. Okay, what's the name of it? Somebody. The great crime show out of Baltimore, which is just fabulous and really does hit the mark on that. What the heck? I forgot the name. I've lost my mind. Can't remember it. Somebody, thank you, The Wire. Thank you, Martin. The Wire. Fabulous show. And for you all who have not, I live between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, or Baltimore, as they call it up there. I am not fond of going to Baltimore because I do not feel safe there. I'll go anywhere in D.C., but Baltimore freaks me out. It is a scary place, and I don't like being there because I just feel like I'm just very unsettling because of the amount of. Florence also says The Wire. We got it. What's The Wire? They are having a problem in Baltimore, and this was written The interesting is this was written in 2002. And in 2021, it's worse. That's what's freaky about it. So there was this kid. Here's just an example of it. So last picture of this kid taken, cute little guy, but there's a gunshot wound to his head. He had a birth defect, and he was the only son of his mother. He was shot on his doorstep. Now, get this one. So it's a drug-racked neighborhood. All right, drug-racked. His name was Cortez Jackson. He was beloved by his neighbors. He was sweet-natured and quick to laugh. He was a young kid with a few little issues, just physical issues. One by one, 4 witnesses put aside their fears. Now, this is amazing because a lot of people won't testify. People say, well, why couldn't that guy get convicted? Because people don't want to testify because you're going to be living in that neighborhood or you're going to be dead in that neighborhood. You get those two choices. And sometimes... and it comes home with The Wire. Okay, The Wire. We got it. It's The Wire. I love the show. It's fabulous. But here's what happens. You're living in that neighborhood. And if you go up and you say, it was Darius, you may be dead next week. Darius will still be out on the street. He won't even get convicted. You'll be dead. And a lot of times, the guy you're supposed to be giving info about, let's say you stand on the corner and you see these guys came by, they shot this guy. You're like, okay, so Darius shot Brian. But, Brian's a low-life, scum-sucking drug dealer too. Do you really want to give up your life for this piece of shit? So police come and say, who do you think shot Brian? You're like, I don't know. It's Darius, but Darius killed Brian, oh well. Because if Brian had killed Darius, oh well. You just don't give a crap because they're both people ruining your neighborhood. Now, in this particular case, this boy wasn't ruining the neighborhood. And 4 people decided, in spite of the fact that we could end up losing our lives over this. We're going to testify because we think Cortez he wasn't a drug dealer, he was a kid. And we want to put aside our fears and testify. They came forward to identify his killer in court. 4 people, but their testimony was not enough. In a pattern played out in scores of trials over the past 5 years, the defendant, Kenneth Exxon Davis, joined a long list of murder suspects acquitted after the defense attorneys argued that police blunders raised doubts about their client's guilt. Now, this has become a huge problem. And this is what it is called. And the last line, I'm not going to read the whole article because it is a very long article. But if you want to read it, I'm going to link it below because it is a brilliant article. And it was 20 years ago, and it's worse now. Go figure, it's worse now. 56% of the homicides resulted in the prosecution of a suspect, but 44% just went cold. Police commanders acknowledged they never even kept track of those cases. And the reason why things are going so badly, oh my God, look at this. This one group, over the past 5 years, the records show one group have been charged 683 times in such crimes as rape, carjacking, firebombing, kidnapping, armed robbery, staggering 823 murders. A third of them are teenagers when they first were accused of taking a life. And most of these were getting off. So the clearance rate was plummeting, and it's still dreadful. And here is the reason. Remember, I've talked about the lack of training and things like that. But here it is. Among the biggest factors in the steep decline in quality of basic police work in Baltimore, political infighting between the mayor and state's attorney office. And my God, it's a disaster right now. An increasing reluctance among witnesses to come forward, and a deepening cynicism among some jurors about the credibility of the police on the witness stand. So the jurors don't trust the police. And remember those juries of our peers? So Darius has just shot off Brian, and the jury of the peers are like half of them are Darius's buddies, and they don't trust the police anyway. Also, an unprecedented surge in retirements in the Baltimore City Police Department that sapped the force of experience. Now, this is happening even worse today with defund the police, because police are retiring like you wouldn't believe, and nobody wants to join the police, especially in Baltimore. You might join the Bowie, where I live, Bowie Police Department, because you're not going to deal with too much. You might join Montgomery County because it's not too bad, and I think they even require a college degree now. You might even join DC or Prince George's County, where I live. But you'll be damned if you're going to join the Baltimore County Police, because you don't want to die up there. And besides which, Freddie Gray's issue was up there, and those people those police almost went to prison for that. Like, I'm not going up there. I don't want to join that police force. There's not anything you can convince me of to make me join that police force. So now they don't have enough police, and they don't have, which people miss, experienced police. Because when people retire early and you get these youthful guys, look at this. The sudden increase in the number of officers with less than 5 years experience in their jobs. Good God Almighty. Remember I told you detectives don't go to detective school? They just start as a police officer on the street and then get thrown into being a detective. They don't go to detective school. So they don't have training. So currently a third of the 3,200 member department and more than half of the homicide unit, less than 5 years experience. So they can't even handle the crap. There's not even enough people to handle the murders. In Prince George's County now, we have more murders than we've had in 20 years. Same is true for DC. The homicide squad can't keep up with it. They cannot. They're exhausted. And they don't have enough time to even go through the evidence that they have. It's a freaking mess. So the prosecution's like, the police didn't do a good enough job, so we don't even take it to court. They don't want to lose their jobs because they depend on their success rate. You know, how many cases? I'd have a 99%, win rate. All of a sudden it goes down to a 52% win rate. You lose your job. You don't get voted in again. So that's a huge problem. But let me find the statement I loved. Here is a great statement. So the rest of the article is fabulous. I'm going to link it in there. The statement is this: Baltimore killers are getting off because the margins of error are so thin. What does that mean? The margins of error are so thin. Okay, well, let's go to the Casey Anthony case. There really wasn't that much of a margin of error, but the jury saw what they considered errors, like lack of proof of this little thing or this little thing, or we're confused about this little thing. Okay, we'll let it go. So what happens is what the defense attorneys have gotten really good at doing is, if they can't prove their client is innocent because the facts actually prove he's guilty as hell, they go after the police and they say, did you interview everybody in the neighborhood? And they're like we had time for that shit. They're like, well, you didn't even do your job. And then they pick on every little error, or just simple, they didn't have time to do it, and saying, this is the reason you didn't prove that our client was innocent. This is why you didn't find the real killer. And there it goes. And then the jury goes, we don't know. Now police look like they sucked. Let them go. And they do let them go. And then they kill again. And so Baltimore has a massively high homicide rate. It is a dangerous place to live. And it's sad because there's a lot of lovely things about Baltimore. Some of the culture of Baltimore and the history of Baltimore, the neighborhoods of Baltimore are lovely. But the crime rate is out of control. And I won't even I'm not going to get into the politics of the woman who is responsible for a lot of the stuff going wrong there. But because I live there, and I'm not going to go into that, because I keep politics off of this channel, and this is about evidence and issues. But it is, that is one of the biggest, huge problems. And so we wonder, why are these people not getting convicted? It's because of the system. Because there's not enough detectives, because there's not enough time, because it's so difficult to prove anybody guilty anymore unless you literally have a videotape of them committing the crime. Even if you had DNA, they'll claim that, oh, your DNA was there for some other reason. This guy that just got let out, Kevin Strickland, I wanted to mention him. He's one of the Innocence Project thing. And I thought, I don't know if he's guilty or not. I don't. But what's interesting, again, remember I had point out that when you read about somebody's getting out, has been proven, quote, innocent after 40 years in prison or whatever, that you have a real hard time finding the truth about the case itself. Well, the same thing was true with Kevin Strickland. Kevin Strickland just got out. Let's see if I can find this thing on him. Kevin Strickland. Oh, I had to go. There's only 10 pages on Google for him, and almost none of them any information that was useful. Let me tell you, really lacked usefulness. But Kevin Strickland, he was supposedly convicted by, the judge set him free. Okay. But what happened was he was, let's see, when was he convicted? Oh my God, it was a long time ago, 40 some years ago. Anyway, a bunch of guys killed a bunch of people, and he was convicted of it. And now they said, well, he's innocent because a witness, the one live person who lived through this, said he did it, and now has retracted the statement. So I'm trying to see where the basic thing. Let me see if I can just pull up the basic thing on Kevin Strickland. And then what I learned about him, which is what's really interesting. So is he innocent or isn't he innocent? Okay, so Kevin Strickland, exonerated after 43 years. 43 years. Convicted of 3 murders with a couple other dudes. He spent 43 years in prison. And the claim was that there was nothing but a witness statement, the one who survived, that he was involved with this. And so he sounds really innocent. But here's what really happened. Apparently, the other people involved in the crime, he was buddies with. And he actually gave the ammunition for the gun that killed the people. He gave it to them. Now, he claims, and it may be true, he gave it to them a couple weeks before, and he didn't know it was going to be used in a murder, but he gave them the ammunition. And his fingerprints were also on the car, but he said, well, that's because I always borrowed that guy's car. It wasn't that night, but I always borrowed that guy's car. And he had an alibi, but that was like his girlfriend, so that's useless. And then supposedly when he got into the police station, he was like doing drugs and drinking and all kinds of stuff. But he said a whole bunch of stuff. He said, well, I know that's why they thought I was guilty, because of the stuff I said. He doesn't say they forced him into anything. He like said things like, well, if you let me back out, I'll shoot more people. Okay. That's why they think you're guilty. And the witness, the living witness, identified him. Now, supposedly, she then said she wanted to right a wrong and said he wasn't guilty, but she's dead and can't actually testify to that. And so somebody said she said that or wrote something. So that's really questionable. And then the other two dudes claim that he did actually, after all these years, 43 years later, oh yeah, he wasn't there. And why didn't they say that early on? Or are they just messing with people? Well, we'll just say he's innocent now because we see this whole big thing. We'll just screw the police. I don't know. So Kevin Strickland, after 43 years, is out. Maybe he was totally innocent, but maybe the dude's guilty as hell. And again, it's not an innocent guy from across town who had nothing to do with anything. He was friends with the guys. He gave them the ammunition. His alibi sucks. He said to the police, a bunch of stuff that made them think he was guilty because he said something about killing more people, and his fingerprints were on the car. So he could have been totally innocent. It's possible that all these things were massive coincidences. But when you go to look at why people get off, you just got to look at why the Innocence Project gets them out. It's not always because it's clear that they were innocent. It's just that if you took that case to court today, he probably wouldn't have gotten convicted because we're very, 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 the reasonable doubt has gone to a smidgen of doubt, like a minuscule amount of doubt. We've gotten to the point where we let people off if we have the slightest idea, that maybe an alien came and did it. We'll let them off for almost anything now. Whatever story can be come up with. That's how Casey Anthony clearly had so much evidence against her, managed to get away with it, because the jury is like, well, I had this tiny little flash of doubt, so I don't want to convict. So we have a very low conviction rate, and it's putting a lot of really bad guys back on the street. And it's a tricky thing. Somebody's pointing out the old adage. What is it? It's better to let 10 innocent men go free than a guilty man be, what is that? Wait, okay, let me, because I can't remember. let me pull this up just so I'm not gonna be totally. It's better to let 10 guilty. Okay, here we go. Where the hell did it go? Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. That's not it. Let 10 guilty. Okay, I hit that wrong. All right. It's better that 10 guilty persons go free than one innocent persons be convicted. Somebody wrote me about this and they said, well, don't you believe that? And I'm like, well, here's the problem. The one innocent person being convicted, yeah, I agree. I would never want an innocent person to be convicted. But if you let 10 guilty people go free, homicidal maniacs, not only do the 10 people they killed or more not get justice, but those 10 homicidal maniacs go and kill maybe 10 more people. So you saved one guy and then you brutally allowed 10 more people to get murdered who were innocent. I'm having an issue with that. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily what we want to aim for. I do believe we have to aim for better police methodology. We should put more money into training. We should have a better professional jury system, in my opinion. We should have all these things. We should do better. But to say that is kind of insane, because it's like, okay, so 10 more people getting murdered is okay with you because we don't want this one person. It's not unfair for them, but it's okay. It's fair for 10 more people to get brutally murdered and raped. I mean, I don't get it. So what we're doing now is actually doing that. We're making the defense, the prosecution, so difficult to actually convict anybody. The defense can get out there and pretty much say anything they want and claim everything, just everything. Oh, well, you can't convict if this, and 500,000 other things that these guys are walking. And not only are the guys walking, but the prosecution won't even take the case. People don't understand that. The prosecution won't even take the case to court because they're like, that's going to just ruin my record. So they're not even going to do it because who wants to look like a fool, So you don't even hear about all the cases that never hit the court. And that's why I was asking, about this interesting point when Kyron came up with this great case. Why weren't those 3 guys convicted? Why weren't they were never taken to court for the homicide? Never. They were interfering, but never for homicide. They didn't get any kind of penalty. But why didn't they not get convicted? Why didn't they get arrested and even charged? Why didn't they go to court? Because the prosecutor's like, yeah, I don't want to mess with this. This is political suicide. I'm not going to do it. So sadly, that is one reason sometimes we see some of these cases not go to court. Sometimes it's because there's no evidence, but sometimes it's because, quite frankly, people just don't want to end up losing their political careers. So that to me was an absolutely fascinating thing about Baltimore. And that was 19 years ago. 19 years ago. And it ain't gotten any better. Let me see if there's one more thing I want to talk about here or not. I think that I put lots of little commentary there. Okay. I had all my little notes there about what I want to talk about. I think that covers everything. Anybody else have any other questions that you wanted to ask me that you just forgot you wanted to ask me? Because I will answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to let you all go and do a thing called prepare for, if you're in the U.S., prepare for Thanksgiving. I'm just gonna lay low and wait for the phone call. Time to come over, Mom. Okay, I'll show up. I'll show up and I'll eat and leave. No, that's terrible. I know. I did the Thanksgiving meal for so many years, but my daughter has taken it over, so I don't do it. So, who is hosting? Martin says, "Happy Thanksgiving." Yeah, you don't get that, right, Martin? You don't have a Thanksgiving. What's your equivalent to Happy Thanksgiving in the UK? What is it? What would it be? What's your? Do you have an equivalent? Because I don't really know if you have an equivalent. Have a day when everybody gets together. And Christine says, "Happy Thanksgiving, Pat, and your family too." Thank you very much. My son has returned from California. He was living out there with his dad for half a year. He is now returned. So he's here. My ex, who is his dad, my ex-husband is going to be coming, and I always appreciate him being here because he's Jamaican and he cooks really good curry goat and makes really great fried dumplings and saltfish and ackee. I'm not going to complain. I'll show up for that delicious food. Martin says, "I don't think we have one. It's a strange concept." Really? You think it's strange? No, it's not really strange to us. I mean, it's now that it's going to become a politically charged holiday, which is kind of sad because originally the concept was, the Pilgrims came over, running away from you guys. They ran away from you guys and came to the U.S. Which wasn't the U.S. It was just the new land to them, and they almost died. And luckily for them, some Native Americans taught them how not to starve to death. And so then supposedly they'll throw a party saying, "Thank you guys," and then and I'm not going to get into the history of what happened after that. But I think the concept is lovely. That idea is that you get together with your family and you do give thanks for surviving and being here together. And you're supposed to invite friends and say, neighbors, people maybe who don't have families. So you say, we want to welcome everybody and we want to be thankful that we have a chance to be here and exist. So, it's kind of very sweet. Lisa says, "Oh, happy Thanksgiving, Pat." Happy Thanksgiving to you, Lisa. Martin says, "It's just something that happens during Christmas." There's an interesting problem. Martin, I'm going to say something. I do have a problem with that because Thanksgiving's at the end of November and then freaking less than 4 weeks later, you got to eat another damn meal. You got to do it all over again. So yeah, I get it. I wish we could push it back. I think we should push it back in early October. And that way, just as the season was changing, we could have this great big meal. And then we'd have at least freaking two months until Christmas and have to do it all over again. Oh, I just want to point out, let me reach this. My book, The Profiler, the price on this book keeps changing on Amazon, but it is $2.99 again because my publisher, who never made enough money off this book, is trying to recoup some of their cash. I will never actually make money off this book anymore, but I still think it's a good book you should read, but I don't want you to have to pay ridiculous sums of money. $2.99 on Kindle, though. Go for it. And the publisher just decides when it's going to go up and down. So today it's $2.99. So if you want to read this book, and I do think it's a really good book, and there's a case in here. I'm going to be talking about later. A case that I determined that somebody was guilty, and he did just plead guilty and has been arrested. But there's also a really weird turn in this case. It's so freaky, I can't even explain it to you because I have to not talk to the press right now, and I can't tell you about it. But so it's going to be really interesting. But that case is in this book, so hey, check it out. $2.99, and of course you don't get the nice cover and all that shit because it'll be Kindle. But hey, it's cheap. Let's see. Annie says, awesome. Have a terrific time. My daughter just made pumpkin pie. Oh, isn't that nice? I felt really bad, Annie. I almost told my son to come and see you because he actually drove through Columbus, but he was in a shabby mood by the time he got there because he was going from San Francisco and he'd been driving for days and he was so tired. And he got to Columbus. I'm like, you should say hello to Annie. But yeah, he's here today. So Annie says it's the 400th anniversary of the first Thanksgiving. Oh my God, that's a really long time. That's amazing. Well, for people in Europe, they're like, yeah, you're 400 years ain't nothing. We've been here a lot longer. I saw this really funny show that was like, it's a YouTube thing. It's like things about Americans that are really, when they're traveling, things that Americans do that we know they're American. And they're so amazed by old buildings. Like, oh my God, look at that old building. They're like, they must have no old buildings over there in America. And they're kind of right about that. Martin says, I like pumpkin pie. It's an acquired taste. It is. And to tell you the truth, I'm not fond of pumpkin pie. If I'm going to eat anything in that category, I'm going to go with sweet potato pie. Sweet potato pie, I think, is very similar, same color. I think is a much better flavor than pumpkin pie. I like pumpkin bread, but I like sweet potato pie. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, Martin, I have to ask you this. Okay, so we were getting some lunch the other day and we were picking up some fries, and this place had curry sauce to go with the fries. And I'm like, like curry gravy. I'm like, isn't that something I had in England a long, long time ago? So I had to buy that. And my daughter's like, what is that? And then she couldn't stop eating it and I couldn't stop eating it. It was really, really good. I guess it's pub food, but oh my God. Am I right about that? It's a pub thing, the curry gravy thing. I mean, I really liked it. I mean, it was like, unhealthy, but I love the heck out of the taste. So you have to tell me if I, whether it's I'm correct about that being a British pub food, but I could be just lying. And while you're coming back with that, I just want to say you can't beat chip shop. Is that what it is? Chip shop curry. Yeah. Could we call them French fries? Could you call them chips? Yeah. Because we can't get that straight over here. Yeah. Chip shop curry. Is that what it's called? Oh man. Okay. So you got a new fan. I'm supposed to be a vegetarian, but I think there's meat gravy in there. So I'm pretty sure that's not vegetarian, but I'm like, oh boy, I could not stop eating that stuff. I was like addicted to it. It's English chip shop. You get gravy. If it's Chinese, what? Wait a minute. If it's English chip shop, you get gravy. If it's Chinese, then curry. Okay, so wait a minute. This was like a curried gravy. What does that mean? It was a curried gravy. I mean, is it Chinese or is it British? I mean, what is it if it's curried gravy? So if it's just gravy and you dip your chips in it, it's totally British. But if you dip your chips in it and it's gravy with curry in it, it's Chinese. Wouldn't be Pakistani. I go Pakistani on that, not Chinese. Okay, I'm waiting on that answer. I find this interesting. So anyway, if you're still here, you've watched this whole thing, I completely forgot to say, please do subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference, even, just trying to support the channel. Do share with your friends, like all that kind of stuff. And if you love this whole get-together thing that I do, the Hangout, and you say, why do I keep missing it? It's live and I never see it come up. It's because you have to join Patreon. And so below there is a link for Patreon where you can join Patreon at the 3rd level, and you can join in and be one of my friends of Pat Brown, profiling of Pat Brown, which these are my friends trying to keep this channel going because it ain't easy. It ain't easy. Okay, what are you saying, Martin? It sounds like the type we get in our Chinese chip shops. Really? Okay, I'm gonna. You know what I'm gonna do? As soon as I get to I can pull myself back in and get to England. I'm just going to run around and check out all the different versions of it because I'm curious that way. Florence says poutine is Canadian. now I do know poutine. I have had that. There's no question about that. I have had that. So that's kind of a different thing. But it's similar but different. Yeah, it's similar but different. So, but yeah, that was. Now I want some, and now I can't get any. It's like one of those things you think, don't eat that. And you do eat that. So anyway, I'm so glad you're here today, tonight. This was fun again, as usual. And it's just, it's always funny because when I do these things, sometimes I'm like, well, Karen asks us like, what are you going to do? I'm like, oh, I should come up with something before Wednesday. And I got a little overwhelmed this week because I was so busy doing things, and because of Thanksgiving and my granddaughter's out of school, all kinds of things that I kind of like got distracted. But Karen's great comment on this particular case in DC really kind of started everything that helped me think. So, Lisa says, thank you so much, Pat. Love these hangouts and the whole channel. Thank you very much. I mean, it's coming along. So I'm really enjoying doing it. So night, Annie, says Martin, and Christine says, that was amazing, Pat. Thank you. Everyone here is the best. You all are definitely the best. Lisa says, what is the name of that case again? Which one? The three guys in DC? The three guys in DC? That is, okay, wait a minute. I should link it below, but I do that after I finish the show and do everything else. That is, what the heck happened to it? Okay, hold on a second. Case Crumble. No, that's not it. I got to save that one. What the heck? Robert, thank you. Thank you. Robert Wone. I wonder how his name is pronounced. W-O-N-E. It's a very weird name, and I can't figure out exactly where he's from because that doesn't sound like, I don't know, People's Republic of China. It doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like a Mandarin name. I don't know if it's Cantonese or it's Taiwanese or something. What the hell the name is that? I got to look that up now because I just don't recognize that name as a Chinese name at all. But Wone. Name, I'm going to see if I can find out where it's from. What do you say that name? What do you call it? What do you call that name? What the heck am I looking for? Okay, Wone name meaning. Is that, well, this one says it's from Norway, so that can't be that one. Wow. Wone. Well, maybe it's W-O-N. Huh. Well, I'm gonna have to figure that one out. That's a really weird one. I don't know whether it's just a weird spelling of a Chinese name that would never have been actually spelled that way in English. Because sometimes when you put things in English, it just turns into something else completely. So that's the way it is. So anyway, it's W-O-N-E. I don't know if it's, I don't know how, Won or Wane, or I would think it would be Won, but that's just me because I can't find anything exactly on where that name comes from exactly, but it's unusual for me. Well, yeah, Wiki says he was Chinese American. Yes, he's Chinese American, but when they say Chinese American, I don't know what Chinese they mean because it could be Mandarin, it could be Cantonese, it could be Taiwanese, it could be this and that, and I'm not really familiar with every location, so it could be a whole bunch of things. It just means he's from that area of the world, but I don't know that it's very clear exactly where the name comes from. I love finding out about names and where people's ancestry is, and because that means that makes a difference in their culture and the whole history of everything. So I'll have to look that one up because I don't know. I really don't know. So anyway. Okay, that's it. Let's see. I've covered that. Yeah. Okay, that's it. I haven't figured out Sunday's show yet. Mostly because Thanksgiving is tomorrow. I'm probably going to be completely screwed and can't do anything tomorrow. So I'm trying to find. Sometimes I look at how many days I have to study and research something, and I think, I want to do that, but I'm thinking, man, I need more than 2 days on that one. So I can't do that one. I have to do this one. So I have a bunch of things I want to do that I don't have enough time to accomplish before Sunday. So Not quite sure which show I'm going to do on Sunday, but I will do one. So anyway, that's it, folks. And I'm glad you were here. That was lots of fun. And I'll get this show up for the people who aren't here today. But all of you are awesome. So anyway, thank you. Good night, everybody, and have a great time tomorrow if you're in the US. And if you're in the UK or any place else, just go out and have a damn good time. Nothing prevents that, right? Okay. Good night, everybody. Good night, Christine, Lisa, Carrie. Oh, who else is here? Martin's gone. And Florence. Annie's over there somewhere. So I don't know where you are. But anyway, good night, everybody.